Across centuries, a handful of catastrophes reshaped human history and the planet itself. These are not merely stories of destruction, but of profound and often painful transformation. They are moments when the immense, indifferent power of the natural world, or our own creations, collided with human civilization, leaving an indelible mark upon our collective memory, our societies, and the very land we inhabit. In the year 79 AD, the Roman Empire was at the zenith of its power. Along the Bay of Naples, vibrant cities like Pompeii, Herculaneum, unaware that they existed in the shadow of a sleeping giant. Mount Vesuvius, for centuries, had been a benign feature of the landscape. But deep within, a cataclysm was brewing. On an autumn day, the mountain awoke with a violence that defied comprehension, unleashing a column of superheated gas, ash, and rock into the stratosphere. Gas, ash, rock. The initial hours rained down pumice and ash, a relentless, suffocating blanket. As the column collapsed under its own immense weight, it sent pyroclastic flows, avalanches of gas and volcanic debris, hotter than 1,000 degrees Celsius, hurtling at hundreds of miles per hour. Life was extinguished in an instant, cities and inhabitants frozen in final, desperate moments. In the middle of the 14th century, a new and invisible terror began its silent march across the Eurasian continent. It traveled along the bustling trade routes of the Silk Road, carried by fleas on the backs of black rats, stowaways on merchant ships. This was Yersinia pestis, the bacterium responsible for the bubonic plague, soon to be known as the Black Death. When it reached the shores of Europe in 1347, the continent was unprepared. A microscopic predator, and humanity its unsuspecting prey. It moved from port to port, city to countryside, striking down the young, the old, the rich, the poor. Physicians were powerless, and prayers seemed to go unanswered. Fields lay untended, villages were abandoned. In a few years, up to 200 million lives were lost, perhaps half of Europe. A severe labor shortage empowered surviving peasants to demand better wages and conditions, hastening the end of feudalism. The Church's shaken authority paved the way for new ways of thinking, the social and intellectual seeds of the Renaissance. On the morning of All Saints' Day, 1755, Lisbon was among the wealthiest, heart of a global empire. At approximately 9:40, the ground began to tremble. A colossal quake, near magnitude 9, far out in the Atlantic. For minutes, the earth heaved. Palaces, libraries, cathedrals, reduced to rubble. Candles and braziers ignited a firestorm that raged for days. Then a massive tsunami crashed into the waterfront, sweeping away thousands. A tripartite disaster, earthquake, fire, flood, left Lisbon devastated. Its shockwaves rippled through Europe's philosophy and faith. Beliefs in reason, order, and a benevolent God were tested to their core. The catastrophe spurred seismology and earthquake-resistant design, marking a shift toward explanations grounded in science and preparedness. From the ruins, a more resilient Lisbon and a more questioning age emerged. In the early hours of April 26, 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, a poorly designed safety test went catastrophically wrong. A sudden surge in Reactor 4 led to two enormous explosions, blowing the 2,000-ton lid off the core and spewing radioactive material high into the atmosphere. This was a man-made disaster, born of flawed design and human error. Firefighters rushed in unaware of the lethal, invisible danger, receiving fatal doses of radiation. Initial secrecy collapsed as the poisoned wind crossed borders. A radioactive cloud drifted from Scandinavia to Italy, settling on soil, water, and life itself. Evacuations created an infamous exclusion zone, emptied overnight. Its health toll on the public and liquidators remains a tragic legacy. Ecologically, wildlife reclaimed a radioactive sanctuary. The world re-evaluated safety protocols, transparency, and international cooperation. A lesson in humility, written in isotopes. On December 26, 2004, deep beneath the Indian Ocean off northern Sumatra, a massive megathrust earthquake ruptured the crust with the energy of tens of thousands of atomic bombs. The seafloor was violently uplifted, displacing a colossal volume of water, sending tsunamis racing outward at jetliner speeds. In Indonesia, Thailand, India, Sri Lanka, Somalia, the day began like any other. For many, the first sign was the sea itself, drawing back to an unnatural, alarming degree. Then came not a cresting wave, but a relentless, rising wall of water. It swept miles inland, obliterating homes, businesses, entire communities. Nearly 250,000 lives were lost across 14 countries. An unprecedented wave of humanitarian aid followed. human solidarity answering nature's force. The disaster exposed the lack of a warning system. In its wake, a sophisticated network of seismic sensors and deep ocean buoys was built, a vital legacy, proof of our shared responsibility to protect one another. From devastation, a hard-won vigilance endures. The stories of these catastrophes are etched into the landscape of our planet and the fabric of our history, stark reminders of forces, both natural and of our own making, that can unravel our world in an instant. From ash to fallout to waves, each disaster forced a reckoning and taught us to rebuild, remember, and prepare. They compelled new sciences, new philosophies, and new systems of cooperation. We cannot always prevent disaster, but we can observe, understand, and prepare. The echoes of Pompeii, the lessons of Lisbon, the warnings of Chernobyl, and the Great Wave's memory are a solemn call for vigilance, wisdom, and humility. The future may depend on listening to these echoes from the past.